Hello, and welcome to the second ever live stream. Today, what we're doing is we're trying something new. We're working through a video that's going to be coming out on the main channel very soon. The real reasons that Charlotte, North Carolina will be America's next number one top city, America's next top model. So I have an outline that I'm going to work through, do a little bit of research, and then who knows? Maybe we'll actually have a video by the end of this. And on the off chance that somebody actually is watching this live right now, I think comments are working. Feel free to drop something in and hopefully we'll see it. So, I'm going to share my screen here. This is actually, I don't think anybody knows this, or very few people. But we go through so many iterations to make videos and make them as good as possible for y'all. And so this actually, we go through like 10, 12 versions of every single video before it finally makes it to recording. So for this particular video, we're going to cover a few different categories, reasons: jobs and opportunity, cost of living, neighborhood choice, lifestyle, daily life, growth and quality of life, long-term future, and then the wrap up. Okay, so starting with the big question, do I believe Charlotte will be the next number one city in the U.S.? Yes-ish. So, and I know people are going to be like, this is clickbait. Yes, all good videos are a little bit clickbaity, but they are all based in truth. I think Charlotte's going to be one of the top cities in the U.S. And the reason I say one of the top is because if you say the top city in the U.S., that there's a lot of questions that come along with that, right? It's like, how do you define what is the top city? Top city by population, top city by best place to live, top city by things to do for old people, things to do for young people, things to do for young professionals. Like there's so many different ways you can measure that. For what we're seeing right now, who's moving to Charlotte right now? I do see a pretty big slice of, or a pretty good sample size, we'll say, of people that are moving to Charlotte. But I mean, just to put things in perspective, even though I've helped dozens and dozens of people move to Charlotte just this year, we have 176 people per day. I think let's fact check that. How many people are moving to Charlotte a day? Because they just published an updated one. 157 people a day. And that's up from during COVID, actually. Because I think, oh wait, no, this was the old one. Maybe it went up again. Updated August 22nd. I think I do subscribe to this. We're gonna just let me in. Let me in. Oh lordy. Is it going to keep doing it? Is it going to keep doing it? There we go. Yay. Ads. 157 people a day. And then Amon is on as my producer today. If you could add to my DSU the Charlotte Observer subscription. I think I already have it, but if you add it to my list, I'll check later. Here we go. 117 people a day up to 157 people a day. So back at the beginning of COVID, I think it was 2022, it was 117 people a day. And that went up from a new report that came out a few months ago that as of last year, it went up to 157 people per day are moving to the Charlotte metro region, which if you're wondering whether or not that's just like in the city, no, that would be crazy. That's so many. This is including all of the different counties that are in the Charlotte metro region. So if we go to the map, um, how am I going to do this? I just realized because I need to. Let's see if I can do this without doxing myself. Here we go. This is also one of the bugs on live streaming that we need to work out. There we are. All right. So that report included Mecklenburg, which is the main one, right? And this is just for the visuals for y'all. So this is Mech. It included Iredell. I've heard people say Erdell and Iredell and Airedell. I don't actually know which one's correct, quote unquote. But that basically goes all the way up through Statesville and all the way up to Union Grove. So it goes way up like into the mountains. You got Cabarrus, which actually, speaking of growth in Cabarrus, there's another realtor that is running for county commissioner, I think. Leave a comment if you'd like to have an interview with her. I was actually thinking about reaching out because she is proposing to pause development in Cabarrus County, and I would love to hear her take on that. You got Union down here. Then there's also to the west, Gaston County, and then which has Gastonia and Union. A lot of people move to Union either because they're again, I have no opinion because I don't have kids, and also I can't have an opinion because I legally can't. Union County, many people talk about the schools there. Again, I don't have kids, but it is one of those things a lot of people talk about to the south because there's really not. I mean, Waxhaw it's a cute like historic railway town, but there's not. I mean, other than residential housing, there's really just not a ton outside. Like Weddington's a nice area, Waxhaw's a nice area. Parts of Western Monroe in particular can be, especially you get out by Wesley Chapel, can be nice areas, but there's not really a lot down in Union other than places to live. If you go to, let's see, Gaston again has Gastonia, Belmont, Mount Holly. Oh, Lincoln County also, you go a little bit further to the north. That was also part of that report. And then we've got on the South Carolina side of the border, there's York County, and I think is it Lancaster County? I always get these mixed up. Not Pennsylvania. Yeah, Lancaster County. It's such a strange shape. This is one of those things I always notice. But let me stop sharing and then go back again to the report. Oh, and then there we are. Oh, and that also then includes Catawba County, Cleveland. There's a couple other counties in there as well. So it's spread out over a pretty large area. And actually, one interesting thing. So, because so many people talk about how fast Charlotte is growing. I saw this on Wikipedia. There's an interesting stat I came across. Well, actually, it's not a stat. I was looking at the stats, and I inferred an interesting stat. So, if you look at the population over time, where was it? Here we are. So if you look basically since, I don't know, probably the 40s or 50s, there's this big gap up between the 50s and 60s of a lot of people that moved here. Grew very, very rapidly. 50% in 10 years is crazy. But from 60 to 70, 1970, it grew by 20%. From 1970 to 1980, it grew by 30%, a little bit faster. But then it's been 25%, 36%, 35%, 20%. And right now, we are on pace to grow at approximately a 20% clip again. And it's interesting because you hear so many people talking about how fast Charlotte is growing right now, and they quote unquote miss the old Charlotte. I've seen a few comments about that recently. And when you look at the actual math, Charlotte is growing less quickly than it used to. It's not slowing down per se, because also you would expect for it to slow down as the city gets larger, but it's on pace to just very consistently be growing, 20-ish%. I think it was like 20.5. So a little bit faster than 2010 to 2020. But it was one of the interesting things that I'd seen. So all that to say, as I ramble onwards, uh, who's moving to Charlotte right now? Everybody. And also, um, going back to the earlier question, is it just hype or is there something deeper? There's a lot of reasons why people are moving to Charlotte, and you see it in the numbers. It's why there's such consistent growth. For who's moving to Charlotte right now, absolutely everybody. I get, again, not 157 people a day is a lot of people. So I still have only a tiny fraction of the people in a year that I ever even talk to. But um, I still talk to more than most people do, more than most realtors do. I have a larger sample size by a lot than the typical even real estate professional. And it's a lot of professionals that are moving to Charlotte right now, and also a lot of people that are looking for lifestyle. So we get people from the stereotype is it's all New Yorkers. We do have our fair share of New Yorkers that move here, but honestly, Florida gets way more. Um, we also get a lot of New Yorkers that move to Florida and realize that they hated it and then move back. A lot of people, I've heard people call them halfbacks because they move down and then they move halfway back. But yeah, we get a lot of retirees, we get a lot of young professionals, we get people moving here for work, people that are moving here for being in a more family friendly environment compared to wherever they are coming from. And they're coming from New York, Florida, Texas, California, Colorado, Washington State, Washington, D.C., South Carolina. Actually, a lot of people move here from South Carolina as well. And that answers my next question. I skipped ahead. And why Charlotte over other popular cities? I will give my own personal take on this. I would love to see if there's some research on it. But actually, let's look up what are the most popular cities to move to in the U.S. Let's see. Consistently high performers: Raleigh and Charlotte, North Carolina, Boise, Idaho, Colorado Springs, Greenville, Austin, Ann Arbor, Michigan. That one I find difficult to believe because there ain't nothing there. I also just like to dunk on Eastern Michigan because Western Michigan's where it's at. I used to live in Western Michigan a couple of different times, actually. Major hubs. I want a good article, though. The U.S. News ones are not the most useful. Actually, I'll show you why they're not the most useful. It's just a listicle, and they don't particularly tell you why they score things, how they score things. Like if you dig through the details, you can find it. Um, I don't think it's a very good. I think it's an okay resource, and I think it's a resource a lot of people know. I don't think it's the best one. And I'll give you a perfect example. Carmel, Indiana. I'm originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. I grew up in Fishers, and I, have a lot of friends that still live in Carmel. Don't get me wrong, it is a very nice place to live. But out of a national list of the best places to live in the US for 2025 and 2026, I can tell you from personal experience, and Johns Creek is actually a suburb of Atlanta, and it's it's a very nice area. Don't get me wrong, Um, I'm very familiar with most of these actually, and particularly growing up here, like I know a lot about Fishers and Carmel. They're not bad places to be. There are better places to be. I will just say that. Cary, Apex, like there's a lot of these areas that Sugarland, Texas. My sister used to live just outside of Sugarland because she used to work for Coca Cola. There are actually Andrew. This is hilarious because Andrew used to live in Hartford, Connecticut, and he also moved down here. There's so many out of this even the top 20 list that I have personal experience with that I think are just garbage out of being able to move anywhere at least. So let's see what Pods has to say. Between pandemic shakeup, natural disasters, last half decade has given the moving industry a run for its money. Annual Pods Moving Trends report charts a wide arc, including cities made reliable appearances and surprising disappearances or complete 180s. So, where are people moving to in 2025? By analyzing Pod's net long distance moving numbers between 24 and 25, comparing those with the previous year, we're able to weed out temporary hotspots and long term draws. We also more clearly identify cities, states, and regions that have continued to lose residents for years, regardless of trends. I am curious how much data Pods really has. Actually, let's see. Pods moving company, are they publicly traded? Let's see how much data they really have. Major player, revolution, blah, 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 blah. Industry leader, significant franchise network, customer activity highlighting popularly moved destinations, overall demand. See, this still, and this is one of, there might be interesting data here, but I mean, even without digging into the numbers, I can already tell you this is going to be skewed because this is like who's the type of is the type of person that is going to utilize Pods representative of the market as a whole? I can guarantee you not, because there's some market, distribution between um, pods and or just any sort of moving containers, and then U-Hauls, DIY stuff, van lines. It will give you insights into a slice of the market, but that slice of the market is not necessarily representative of the national market. But we'll see what they have to say. Could be interesting. So Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Wilmington area. I'm in. I'm curious why they put that as a region. Like, just okay, to put this in perspective. Let me. I'm going to change over to the map again. I need to figure out how to not accidentally dox myself. Let's see. How do I even? I don't even know how to turn that off. I think I did it. Whatever. If you're watching this and you're crazy, stop watching, please. Okay, so here we go. They're lumping together Myrtle Beach, which I just drove back from yesterday, actually, visiting my girlfriend's family, and then Wilmington up here. They're not that close. Like, that is a solid hour and a half. Um, Yeah, hour 37 without traffic. And I can tell you, unless you're driving when there's literally nobody else on the road, it's probably a little bit more than that, especially if there's beach traffic. It's more than that. It's going to be closer to 2 hours. Like, I don't know if I would be putting those into one region. Tops our list for record setting third year suggests more people may embrace the idea of living where others vacation. And I will also tell you, living where others vacation is nice because it really is like vacation year round. When I talk to people that are looking specifically for the beach, beach town kind of vibe, especially if you're looking for someplace to retire, you're not looking for somewhere that's going to have a ton of tourist traffic. You're looking for somewhere that's going to be quiet and really quaint and is not going to get a lot of traffic. Like Bike Week in Myrtle Beach is absolutely insane. I know Wilmington also has some similar kind of touristy draws, and you will like that's not where most people will want to move. Now, maybe somewhere between the two, but then you don't have access to like a good airport. It's not a choice I would make. For some people, it makes sense. For me, no. That's also okay. Total tangent, but that's one of the things I see a lot of. I won't say a lot. Some comments on, and I also get questions about, is people either ask what I would do when we're talking about places to move, areas, that sort of thing, or they're like, "Oh, you're just saying that. You're just saying something because you want people to move to Charlotte." I do love Charlotte, but everything on this channel is my own personal opinion, or it is verifiable fact. And if it is an opinion and I don't share a verifiable fact, then it's an opinion. And if it's a verifiable fact, I will share the receipts. And so, yeah, I live in Charlotte because I like it. Of course, I'm going to say that I like Charlotte. Why? Because I like Charlotte. Can you tell I'm caffeinated? Extra caffeinated. Where was I? Okay, so access to nature not without risk due to the Atlantic hurricane season. This is also very true. People are continuing to move to Boise, recurring favorite among families and retirees, as well as Knoxville, very popular city for young professionals. This one, I'd also be curious to see the receipts on that because Knox doesn't have that much. Like I have friends that I went to school with. I actually almost took a job in Knoxville. Um, I went to engineering school and then I did corporate for a while, and then I did the next logical thing, which was real estate. It's a joke. There's no rhyme or reason how those connect, but it's what I wanted to do, so I did it. Most people are moving to in 2025. Two-thirds of overall moves unpacking in states along the aptly named Sun Belt because vitamin D is what keeps you happy. At least me. I need my sunshine. Majority of the most moved states in 2025 are sunny states with warm weather. However, a deeper look reveals the most popular states to move to are overwhelmingly in the southeast. Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Georgia line. I know I'm going to get hate for that reference. Uh, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina dominated our list this year, echoing moving trends from recent years. None of this is really news. I will say Alabama, though, I feel like has gotten a lot more press recently, or maybe it's just because I've been talking to people from Alabama more recently. I just had a wonderful couple that moved up here from Alabama. Um, if you're watching this, you know who you are, and I appreciate y'all. Some of my favorite clients this year. What state everybody moving to? North Carolina continues to woo new residents, lower cost living, job opportunities, access to outdoor activities, and southern hospitality. Boasting 5 out of the top 20 cities people are moving to in 2025, the Tar Heel state takes first place among the most moved to states on this year's list. However, Tennessee isn't far behind, with 4 cities showing up in the ranks, making it one of the most popular states to move to and one to continue to watch. Actually, yeah, I've had a couple of clients. Um, one of my past clients is moving to Tennessee soon, and then another client almost moved here, and they were going to move here for a while and then move to Tennessee, and they decided to just move straight to Tennessee. I will say I have, I won't say beef with Tennessee, but I have questions. If you've seen any of the stories in the news about there was a YouTuber that got hit with a frivolous tax evasion case, go do your own research. But basically, as the story goes, he never got a tax bill on a write off that they disputed, and so then they just went straight to arresting him, and then it blew up in the news, and now the state is walking away from the case like it never happened. It's anyways, go watch it. Uh, I've had a couple people that were thinking about moving to Tennessee that decided not to after seeing that because it sets a bad precedent for business owners. Where are and again, one of my favorite reasons for North Carolina, it is ranked as top 3 most business friendly states for the last 5 years running, and I think it'll be 6 years running very soon. Where are most Americans moving to now? Americans heading for new homes in the Carolinas, Tennessee, and Georgia. Changes where people are moving now. Georgia, Florida, and Texas are quietly falling off the list as more people move to places in southern Appalachian states and the Pacific Northwest. That's also an interesting one too. Um, Actually, this is something I don't know if I put it in a video, but I used to talk about a lot. If you look at net migration for state by state, so Florida, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina. Where's the actual article though? I don't know if it still is the case, but it used to be, as of a year or two ago, that Texas and Florida had the highest gross migration, but then after people would leave, then um, North Carolina had the highest net migration, which now it looks like maybe it's number 2. This used to be a different order, I think. Biggest net migration increase July 2023 to 2024. Net migration decrease California, New York, Illinois. Yeah, I'm not surprised by this. Illinois in particular, I've had a lot of friends that I went to Purdue, boiler up, hammer down. And so a lot of Purdue people end up in Chicago because it's a huge employment hub and it's close by. A lot of companies recruit there. And I've noticed particularly in the last year or two, like I think this number is, it says, July to 2024. I think this number is definitely higher now. Um, a lot of people have decided to leave Chicago. Jersey, that one honestly kind of surprises me because I would expect more people that are leaving New York would just go to Jersey. But maybe not, or maybe they are, and it still isn't enough to replace the people leaving. Massachusetts, yeah, Boston's expensive, and the western part of the state. There's some real pretty areas in the mountains, though. Sunbelt states, Texas and Florida, continue to see positive net migration, far less unbound migration. Height of the pandemic housing boom. Oh, that's also an interesting. So going back to what I had said earlier, specifically about the Charlotte population growth. What's interesting is that you also see the growth was very steady through COVID. Like we had a little bit of a boom, but it wasn't the same boom that you saw in states that like expanded really rapidly and then collapsed, like parts of Texas or Florida. And so when you see these headlines in the news about different areas where prices are crashing, right? It's like Austin, Texas is a great example of this. Prices went up so rapidly during COVID that when you got on the backside of that, and then there was less of this giant influx of people coming from California, you had demand that was outstripping the supply, and so you saw prices go up. And then all of a sudden, when it evened out, then there was all the supply that had been built up for those areas. And so it's taken a few years for it to begin to even out. And in some areas, they just haven't seen the same rebound because it wasn't as nice of an area to move to as a lot of people thought it would be. The Carolinas, different story. And what's also interesting is because Charlotte borders North and South Carolina, um, you actually see sometimes in the South Carolina numbers, depending on how they're calculating this, you will see Charlotte in both of those numbers because Charlotte's the biggest city by far in the Carolinas, like not even close. People look at Raleigh, even if you take the entire Raleigh, Durham triangle um, metro population, the best estimate's 1.5 to 1.6 million. And mind you, it's on a really big geographic area. Very, very large geographic area. Actually, here. So 2.4 on the combined statistical area. And then if we go to the Charlotte metro population, 2.8. And then if you include, and now that's not, the 2.8 is an equivalent area to like this 1.5 to 1.6. If you take the combined statistical area, and mind you, this is for 3 cities, is 2.4 million. And then you instead look at the equivalent distribution of counties, like the same kind of area. I think Charlotte's like 5 million. Where was it? Because there's the metro. I think it's maybe combined metro because it then combines. Combined statistical area. Oh, it's the CSA. 3.47. I don't think this is the same one I'm thinking of. Let's see. Yeah, so this doesn't, I don't think this includes the Charlotte, Concord, Gastonia. That would be the one we want. Charlotte, Concord, Gastonia. And mind you, Concord and Gastonia are much more small towns. They're not like Durham and Chapel Hill are their own. I mean, they're also like large small towns, but they are their own towns, not just suburbs. Let's see, combined statistical area population. Yeah, maybe the CSA does, but does it include South Carolina? Still 3.5 million. It's no matter how you calculate it, it's 1.5 to 2 times the size minimum. And when you look at the actual city itself, it's substantially larger, like 3 to 5 times larger. It's like a mid-sized city versus a very small, like almost a city. But I'm biased because I live here and I like it. So, why Charlotte over other popular cities? See, I got myself off track. Going back to the pods article. So, Georgia, Florida, Texas quietly falling off the list as people keep trending towards southern Appalachian states and the Pacific Northwest. People still moving to Florida, not the hotspot of years past. I can actually tell you why a lot on Florida in particular. A lot of people are, I mean, aside from the fact that there's been a lot more extreme weather in Florida in recent years, it's also just not like people realize you can still get temperate weather if you go a little bit further north than Florida. And you don't have to get the same extreme weather, especially the extreme heat like more than anything, that is the number one. Like I can almost predict how many people are going to call me from Florida to move up to Charlotte, depending on what the weather forecast is, because every summer the oppressive heat comes back and people remember how terrible like the sticky humidity is, and then I get calls like clockwork. The especially from southern Florida, the 954 area code all day long. So trend is in line overall. Net migration reports. Click Orlando. We'll look at that here in a little bit. 2 Floridian cities actually made our list of top move out cities this year. Jacksonville also kind of surprises me. I don't even know where Ocala is. I've heard of it. Is that? I was next to Gainesville. That makes sense. Many of those who left Florida moved to the Midwest, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and the Northeast. Yeah. A lot of people that leave Florida also, they're looking for more topography and they're just sick of flat because it's so flat. And I get that too. Like growing up in the Midwest in Indiana, it is so flat. It is unbearably flat. It is just strip malls and cornfields, and there's nothing else there. And in Florida, it's, you at least have the beaches. Like Miami has some nice areas, but it still is very flat and there's not much variety. It's just all the same thing. Saw a notable uptick in relocations to the Midwest compared to the previous period. Many of these moves originated from Florida as well as the Northeast, Arizona, and Nevada. Nevada? Do you say Nevada or Nevada? I'm curious. I wonder if that's a regional thing because I've heard both. DFW newcomer to our area top cities people are moving to in 2025. That one kind of surprises me because I have family out there, and the traffic is just terrible, man. Now, granted, they have a lot of jobs and a lot of employment out that way too, so maybe that's why. 4 cities maintained the same positions last year. The Carolinas continue to bring home the blue ribbon. Hell yeah, we do. As the most moved to states in 2025. And we also welcomed 4 newcomers to the list: DFW, Chattanooga, Spokane. That one really surprises me because because Spokane, I think, is Eastern Washington, is it not? Yeah, it's Eastern Washington. The only thing anywhere near Spokane is Spokane. There's nothing there. Yeah, that one also surprised me. San Antonio, and said a surprising goodbye to Savannah, Houston, Orlando, and Phoenix. That also is not super surprising to me. And honestly, I can tell you why. There's a couple of, some commonality there. So Houston and Orlando both, but Houston in particular, there's no zoning. It's all just mixed together. And people that are from there don't mind it because they're used to it. People that are not from there, it's so weird. It like the feel is just so strange. And they do still get hurricanes too. So it's not a great place to move to unless you have a reason to move there. And they've lost some employment hubs too, because that used to be that's what took my sister to Texas was Coca-Cola used to have an office there, and then during COVID they closed that office and just consolidated back into Atlanta. Every city on this year's list has appeared at least once before, including 8 areas that have appeared each year for the last half decade: Ocala, Boise, Knox, Greenville, Spartanburg. This one's interesting too. So, if you don't know where that is, which I'd be surprised if you're watching my channel, but not impossible because I don't really talk about it that much. So let me just pull it up just so everybody can see. Greenville is about an hour and a half southwest. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Hour and a half southwest of Charlotte and about an hour south of Asheville. And They got a BMW plant as well as a few other major employers a couple years ago. And ever since then, it's been just like this boom because there's been so much employment that has moved to the area. And um, I, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. It is, mind you, just to put this in perspective, Spartanburg, they share an airport. It's a very small area. Uh, we'll say, what's the combined population? So between Greenville, Spartanburg, and Anderson, it's 1.6 million. So it's very, very small. It's 500,000 in Greenville, and that includes the entire county. Greenville City is 72,000 versus like 800,000 within Charlotte proper. So it's not even like it's a very different area. It's much smaller, and I would be a little bit nervous just unless like if I was working a remote job or if you're working a remote job, that's one thing. Um, if you're moving there for a job, I would always be a little bit nervous that like what if I have to move at some point because that you know God forbid that company goes away or something, you or a plant gets moved. There's so many things that could happen when you're in a small area like that. Oh, here and then Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington. So those are all here in the Carolinas. Uh, the last 5 years have been somewhat unpredictable outlier years because of events like the pandemic and increased severe weather. We are finally starting to pull familiar moving trends into sharper focus and recognize staying power of particular regions, most notably the Southeast. For the second year in a row, the Carolinas have the highest number of ranking cities on our list and the highest number of cities in the top 10. And additionally, Myrtle Beach and Wilmington areas returns in the number one spot for the third year in a row, setting another pods moving trends record. Greenville, Spartanburg stays steady in fourth. Raleigh continues to move up the list from 20th in 2023 to sixth last year and third in 2025. I will say Raleigh has, that's actually an interesting insight. So, Raleigh in particular, even 5 years ago, nobody moved to Raleigh unless you had family there. And now you will see, um, so I'm getting a call here. You will see like a decent number of people do actually look at Raleigh as its own potential option. And again, maybe I'm a little bit skewed on this just because I'm closer to Greenville, Spartanburg. But I do notice that I mean, definitely I get more calls related to Greenville, Spartanburg, but until recently, like nobody looked at Raleigh, at least at first. It was at best like a secondary kind of afterthought. In contrast, Charlotte drops down one spot to sixth. Boo. And the biggest change comes from Asheville, which plummeted from 10th to 18th, likely a result of the immense devastation of property infrastructure from the 2024 Hurricane Helene. One of the interesting things too, and this is why I've talked about this before, but I cannot emphasize enough. It is so important if you are going to purchase a home and work with an agent. If you feel comfortable taking on the liability of DIYing that project, go for it. However, if you are choosing to work with a professional, please, for the love of everything that is holy, make sure that you're working with somebody that's actually professional. 49% of agents last year sold 0 or 1 home, and I think it was over 70% sold less than 5. which means that they are at best a hobbyist. So your friend that has their real estate license is probably at best, statistically speaking, more likely than not, a hobbyist. Your family friend, or your family who has a friend or who had a realtor, more likely than not, they are a hobbyist. A lot of the destruction, unfortunately, in Asheville came from people that didn't, or came, it was on properties where people didn't even know that one, they were in a mudslide zone, two, that was something that exists, three, FEMA publishes maps to make sure that people have the opportunity to know about this ahead of time. And again, there's so much unfortunate, both destruction and loss of life that was completely avoidable because people just didn't know public data that is out there for your safety exists. And for those of you wondering, Charlotte had no flooding. It was, I can talk about why that storm was so interesting. Uh, Again, engineer at heart. I pulled a bunch of the historical data going back to I think 1860 or 1880 from the National Weather Service's website, and there's a lot of different reasons why Charlotte is so isolated from extreme weather. Like you go to the east, there's some. You go to the west, it's very once in 1,000 years, but still it happens. But Charlotte, at least, knock on wood, is very very isolated. So here, 20 cities with the highest number of move-ins ranked. Myrtle Beach. I still find that odd that you're gonna combine that. Ocala, Raleigh, Greenville, Spartanburg. And for those of you wondering as well, if you would like help even exploring, let's say you're not even necessarily ready to make a move or even not sure if you want to make a move, we cover all of North and South Carolina. It is the Living in Charlotte team. However, we have team members all over the Carolinas. Um, so we can help whether you're looking from number 18 down in Asheville, if you want to be in the mountains, all the way up to the beach, Greenville, Spartanburg, Raleigh, Charlotte, anywhere, we got you. And actually, I'll shameless plug if I can find it. Is it this one? It's not this one. But hey, if you want to browse all the new home listings in and near Charlotte, North Carolina, you can scan the QR code, and it will show you not only in Charlotte, but I believe also all of North and South Carolina. So you can browse homes anywhere, everywhere that your heart desires. And if you get in there and you don't see quite what you're looking for, text me and I can set you up with a custom list of homes. And or where's our other one? We got the quiz right. Do we have the quiz? I don't see the quiz. Amon, if you see the quiz somewhere, let me know. All right. Yeah, it's enough of this. Kind of boring. So going back to our outline, so those are some of the popular cities. What are the main reasons Charlotte is on this path? Employment's a big one. One of the questions I always pose, right, is if you look at banking as an industry, because banking is one of the largest industries in Charlotte, we are the number 2 banking hub in the US behind New York. If you have, let's say publicly traded company like Chase or JP Morgan rather, or any of the big banks, Bank of America, if they're looking at where they can hire or not hire new staff, especially like kids straight out of college, why would they hire somebody for $150,000 or $180,000 in New York when they could hire them for $70,000 or $80,000 in Charlotte, and they'll have the same quality of life? Like, it's a no-brainer. Save so much money. That's why there's so much banking that is moving here, among other things too. Let's see. What kind of jobs are bringing people here? A lot of healthcare, a lot of banking, some manufacturing, supply chain, consulting, accounting, a lot of left brain logical jobs. And let's see, is Charlotte still affordable? Short answer is yes. The We should make an updated video on the cost of living and affordability because a lot of people don't realize just how like Charlotte has gotten a lot more expensive than it used to be, but not as expensive as you might think, um, given the population growth. So it's not like it used to be so cheap, especially like you see back pre-COVID, so unbelievably cheap. Everything, not just here but everywhere, went up quite a bit after COVID. And I'll actually pull up some stats here. Um, the cost of living, I mean, in terms, everything has been pretty much flat other than housing, and housing has gone up. So let's pull some of the stats on that, and then you can see what it actually costs. If my machine will load, actually, it's not my machine. It's the data website. I also looked at putting together some sort of resource on the website for different areas and stats, and being able to look up the lists of homes and that sort of thing. So if that's something that would be interesting or helpful for your home search, comment that, and I will definitely go through and answer those questions. All right, so going back to the stats here. So when we look at the entire MLS, that includes all the Charlotte Metro Plus region. So that's the actual Charlotte hub as well as the areas around there, including Asheville. Is kind of a wonky shape. But if we're looking at just like the Charlotte MSA, because that's really what you're probably caring about for this. So the Charlotte MSA is, you can see over the last year has gone up 1.8%. And we're looking currently at the median sales price. Now that's important because I'm going to differentiate a couple of things here in just a second. Median sales price is looking at all the home sales in the market, and median meaning half of the home sales fell below that price and half the home sales fell above that price. It is not the average because the average can be skewed. So I'll show you. If there's a really expensive home, it's going to skew it up. If there's a really cheap home, it's going to skew it down. But you can only skew it down to zero, and you could have $100 billion home sale. Not that we ever have, or anywhere ever has, actually, for that matter. But um, you notice here, this is skewed both in terms of appreciation. It's skewed up. 3.1% is not necessarily, even though it is the average. Uh, you might see some agents or people that want to show you everything being just like, always a great time to buy, always a great time to buy. Well, kind of, sort of. If it makes sense, it's a great time to buy. If it doesn't make sense, it's not a great time to buy. It doesn't matter what the market's doing. But 3.1% in the last year, and the median 1.8%. And this is much cleaner data, again, for the Charlotte metro statistical area, because you're looking at the middle of the data set. You're not looking, again, at the average. Now, when we go back to not even pre-COVID, let's go back, I guess, 5 years. So going back to pre-COVID, January 2020, the median price was 255 versus now it's 402. And you can see there was, since January of 2023, the last 3 years have been not quite flat, but pretty much flat. This does not take into account the skew that occurs when you have homes that are either really large that get sold or uh, are really small, really nice, not so nice. And so, what we want to look at is the median price per square foot. Because, for instance, and you're going to see this as a slight difference here, it's in the last year, looking at price per square foot, the market is flat. Over the last 2 to 3 years, it actually has appreciated more than it looks like on the median chart. And the reason for that is recently, homes that are smaller have been selling more. There's been more of them because people want affordability. And how do you do that? Smaller homes. Interestingly, also when people point to homes back in like the 20s and the 30s, let's look at this. What was the average size of a home built in let's see 1920? The average size of a new single family home in 1920 was 1,000 square feet. Some new homes from the decade ranging from 740 up to 1,200 square feet. So when people look at how much cost of housing has gone up, even relative to inflation, you also have to look at what was the average. And let's just make sure this is coming from a reputable source. Yeah, 1920, 1,048 square feet. Versus let's see if they have in this report, does it go all the way down to 1967, 70? So then we get all the way down to today, and the average square footage now is 2,500 square feet in 2011, 2,600 square feet in 2017. So that's 2.5 times the size that it used to be. So that's also one of the reasons why you do see particularly new homes costing more than they quote unquote used to, even when you adjust for inflation, is because also the home is 2.5 times larger and there's a lot more technology in it. But yeah, so you see the median price per square foot went up a ton through COVID, and then not so much the last 3 years, but pre-COVID, I mean, it was one of the cheapest places you could be pretty much anywhere in the U.S. And now it's in line with a lot of other places because if our median home sale price is now 402, the national median price we are sitting at 426 from NAR data and 413.5 from the Census Bureau. I'd probably trust the NAR data over the Census Bureau data right now. Just because there's a lot of lag in both the Federal Reserve, like the Fed data, for a variety of different reasons. More so in the owner's equivalent rents, there's a ton. There's like a year-long lag there, but for um, when you're looking at the NAR data, especially when you're looking at MLS level data, that's the best data you're going to find anywhere. It's the largest data set, the most complete data set, and there's a lot of non-public data in there as well. Either way, somewhere around that 4.25, 415, 4.25 range, and so we're still below the median nationally. I'm going to go back and maybe keep pressing a little bit more. What costs surprise people after moving? I mean, one of the common ones is we do have a vehicle tax, like property tax, but it's not very much money. It's like 3% of what their estimated value is, and the estimated value is usually well below market value. So, I mean, it's a couple $100 a year. It's not a lot of money. And is it expensive or just more mature now? I would say it is It's both. It depends on the area, because if you look at areas particularly within the city, so again, going back to our data set, let's go to like a popular neighborhood like Dilworth. So just to again look at this in terms of a multiple on the whole, 255 up to 402. Um, I did that backwards. 402 divided by 255 is 57.8%, or 57.6% English. If we're going to then add for comparison, let's say Dilworth. Here we go. I hand drew this area myself, just for you. Just for you. It's very chunky because it's such a small area, but let's see, 433 up to... We're actually going to do price per square foot because this is just too all over the place. So 296 versus... Oh, wait. No. 128 versus 215. So 215 divided by 128. So that's 60, we'll call it 68. So 68% versus 459 over 296. 459, 296. 55%. That's actually interesting because I would have wonder why that is. Dilworth is such a hot area. I wonder why that is. 459, 296. So my math is correct. It just didn't outperform the market as a whole. And some of that may also just include like new construction, because new construction homes tend to have a higher cost per square foot, and there's no new construction, not really, at least not at this point in Dilworth. That could be part of it. I wonder, let's look at a couple other nice areas and see what we find. Myers Park. And then we'll also add a control of, let's say, maybe Mount Holly would be a good one. Interesting. So Mount Holly actually is in line with the total MLS. So as a percentage, that probably is 123 to 205. Yeah, that's in line. And then you look at something like a Myers Park, 309 up to 483. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so the more mature areas, you're seeing less of an increase, but it's going from very expensive to very expensive. And then you see in the less developed, less mature areas, it still is going up. It's a little bit less so, or it's going up far less by in terms of dollars, but more in terms of percent. So, why does Charlotte feel different? Why does Charlotte feel different area to area? I almost had a stroke reading that. Uh, let's see. When you're looking at neighborhoods, um, I guess it really depends on how you're asking the question, because it can be one of a couple of different things. So if you're looking at different areas to choose from and you're looking for something in particular, um, it's going to be my brain's not braining right now. I had a thought and then I lost it. So when you're looking different different areas are going to feel different when you're looking at different areas within a certain area or similar areas that are different. um I mean, some of it's history, I guess. Amon, can you clarify this question? while he's working on that, I will give my own spiel on this. So every part of Charlotte has its own unique feel, and that's for a few different reasons. The biggest one is like there are a lot of like every little town has its own unique history here, and each different town, like it just has its own unique feel. I can't even tell you necessarily what the difference in the feel is or like why it is, but if you go and experience it for yourself, you will 100% like see what I mean. I give an example. So Belmont, North Carolina, and Mount Holly, North Carolina, are both very close to each other geographically on the west side of the city. Let me illustrate this. So they're both here, right? Mount Holly right there, Belmont right here. They're only about 15 minutes away from each other, and not even. It's probably like 7 minutes center to center. They're very similar on paper. They both have very similar histories. They're both, historic railway towns. They both have nice areas. They both have not so nice areas, but they have very different feels. And if you go, you can definitely feel it. I would say if I had to guess, there's probably just more, um, because they both have like community events, they both have festivals, they both have lots of events for kids, they have lots of things going on, for the entire family. That's very family friendly. They both have lots of little shops and things to do, but they just have a different feel. And they even I honestly, they even look pretty similar too. Like if I let's see if I try zooming in to do Mount Holly downtown. This isn't the exact street that I wanted, but it helps to illustrate the point. So here we are. Okay, so here's the main drag, historic railway town, and you can see like there's all these little shops and things here. It's decorated for the holidays, super cute, and a couple of my favorite little restaurants and things to do are right here. Historic railway town. Again, you can see coming through the middle of here all of your railway. And then you go out and you come down to Belmont, historic Belmont downtown. What do you have? You also have a park. You also have train tracks. You also have this decorated for the holidays. You also have lots of little shops on this quaint little downtown street. You also have, again, a park right across the way and lots of things to do, places to grab a cup of coffee, etc. But they have distinctly different feels. Um, and so, I mean, Charlotte as a whole, there's something for everybody, but it's not all for anybody. Like, there's definitely areas that I like more than other areas. For what mistakes do newcomers make picking neighborhoods? Probably the biggest one is just either looking at what you need today or planning way too far out in the future. When you're looking at areas and things to do, you want to live somewhere that's going to have all the things that are important to you for that day to day life. But there's no way that you're going to be able to pick an area that can have everything you ever possibly need. And I'll give an example. So I've had several times recently, and one client I'm thinking of in particular that called and was like, "Hey, I want to buy somewhere that's going to have great schools because the education is really important to us." I was like, "That's awesome." Totally understand that. My mom is a teacher, so education was very important in our family growing up too. What age range are your kids, so that when we're looking for areas, I can send you some resources for you to do research on the schools to make sure that you're directing me appropriately on what does and does not work for you. And they were like, "Oh, well, we don't have kids quite yet, but we're planning to have our first kid here in the next couple years." And what I told them, and I tell everybody, is if you are, um, picking out a home, particularly based off of the education, the schools in the area, you want to make sure that you're actually going to get to use any of the schools that you're paying for. Because schools do affect the appreciation, the cost of homes in a given area. Charlotte is growing very quickly. And so schools get rezoned, schools get moved around. And you do see neighborhoods completely change what schools they're assigned to. And so the last thing you want to do, like there's a new construction community that um, was up in Concord, Cannon Run, and right as the community closed out, the schools got rezoned, and that was not disclosed that that was going to happen to any of the people that bought in there, and should have been. The builder ended up paying probably not as much money as they should have, but a lot of money out of pocket in order to make people happy with the schools getting rezoned. But that's one of those instances where, I mean, on resale too, sometimes there's no way to know that it's going to happen. And in that instance, maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. It's impossible to know. But it it still occurred all the same. And so if you're spending all that money to buy into a specific school district and then you don't even get to use the schools, like there's no way to control what's going to happen and how things might get rezoned after 3 to 5, 7 years from now. So especially in that like 5, 7, 10 year range, it's anybody's guess because you have no idea unless an area is super developed and already really really stable in terms of population, like it's not going to influx a lot. There's no other real way to know whether or not, if you're paying for the school, you're actually going to get to use it. And then also, how important is choosing the right area? I mean, this one I feel like is a little bit self-explanatory, but it affects every part of your day-to-day life. And so if you are picking an area to live, you want to make sure you're picking an area to live based off of what you want your day to day life to look like. So for me, I really love to go hiking with Penny. She's right here off camera, and we will probably go hiking later today, even if it's only for 20 or 30 minutes. I live close to the Whitewater Center, so that's very easy to do. If you really like to do Pilates or it's important that you're near a great lifting gym or powerlifting gym or something that is very specific, right? Then you want to live really close to that. You want to live close to restaurants. You want to live close to parks or whatever it is that you and your loved ones like to do on a regular day to day basis. So I do need to wrap up here in a few minutes. So I won't say speed run, but I'll definitely move a little bit quicker through some of these other sections. And then we might even do another day on this one. Lifestyle and daily life. What does everyday life actually feel like? Who ends up loving Charlotte? Who ends up hating it? Day-to-day life here, I'd say, feels kind of like an adventure. It feels a lot like the first day of school. Everybody is here um, to make friends and start to drop roots because very few people are actually from here. Everybody moved here within the last few years. And so it gives you the opportunity to make friends and start a new chapter of life. And people that know that and are okay with that going into moving here really end up loving it. And people that expect Charlotte to be like where they came from in particular are usually the people that end up hating it. If you are leaving Florida because you want somewhere that is going to be more of Florida, you're not going to find it here. You might find something similar, but it's not going to be Florida. If you're leaving New York and you expect to find New York here, or Texas and expect to find Texas here, you're not going to find that here. You're going to find Charlotte here. And so having the right expectations going into it's really important. And also, understanding too, like there's a lot of opportunity to make friends and drop roots and have connection here if you go out and do that for yourself. But it's not going to happen by chance, right? It's something that you got to actually go and seek out and make the connections, make the friendships. Go, like I always recommend, have one activity, whether that's tennis or pickleball, things I enjoy, especially tennis, or weightlifting or run club, whatever it is, have something that you do and get involved into the community through at least one activity. And that'll make it much easier for you to find good people that you can make real relationships with. Growth versus quality of life. Is Charlotte growing too fast? What's improved because of growth? What has gotten worse? Um, Growing too fast is very subjective because according to who? According to who? Charlotte has definitely grown very rapidly. And so we have seen a lot of things like, for instance, the food scene has grown a lot. There's a lot of small businesses that have opened and done really, really well because of this growth. We have also seen traffic has gotten notably worse. It's nowhere near like the traffic in Atlanta, but it has gotten notably worse. We've also seen certain aspects of quality of life are, I'd say, probably better. Like there's more areas that are walkable, but then there's also other things like uh, i- like some areas of the city are not as clean as they used to be. I'm trying to think of what are some other good examples. Um, there's definitely parks that are more congested. I wouldn't say too terribly so, but that's something that I have noticed. Some areas don't have quite as much green space. Now, don't get me wrong, Charlotte still has a ton of green space compared to most places. But it's like, let me pull up the map again. You see all this green? Like these are all parks. They're everywhere through the city. Like you can't throw a stone and not hit a park. Like they're everywhere. Parks everywhere. So let's see, where's my there we are. So there still is a lot of green space, but um like you will see a lot more people there. I know like congestion on Lake Norman has gotten notably worse. There's again, for areas that are hotspots that a lot of people want to live, cost of living has gone up. It still is a lot of good employment, and so it all depends on what you make. But if you haven't made more money, while people that do make more money have moved into an area, you will see the cost of living go up because of that. And then long term, where's Charlotte headed in the next 5 to 10 years? I'm going to just say consistent growth because we've seen it for the last 100 years. I don't see that changing anytime soon. And why are companies and families betting on it? Is this growth sustainable? I'd say it's very sustainable because we're well within what is typical for the last, again, going back to that chart that we looked at earlier of growth over the last several decades, we've seen way more growth, especially going back to like the 60s. That was 50% growth. That is so much growth compared to, again, now we're still seeing 20% and on track to do another 20% between 2020 and 2030. Um, it still is consistent growth and um, it's pretty sustainable. There is again talk of places like Cabarrus County potentially, depending on what happens in 2026, potentially freezing um, new builds for a little bit. But honestly, for property owners, if you constrict the supply, demand's going to continue to be there, and you're probably going to actually just see that benefit property owners even more so in terms of appreciation and equity. So it is now noon. I appreciate anybody and everybody that has hopped on. We'll do probably a Q&A later today, and I'll continue to work through this one. My name's Lucas Roller, your realtor here in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, or anywhere in the Carolinas. We do have teammates as well that can help with all of your relocation needs or buying, selling, thinking about buying, thinking about selling, always happy to help. Scan the QR code. You can, again, get a list of homes and browse homes all over North Carolina and South Carolina to find your ideal homes in our homes database. And until next time, hope to show you around town. Go check out everything on the, actually, I'll show you on the living in, if I can type, can't type, living in Charlotte team. Go check out all the videos over there. We got a ton of great ones. I appreciate you and good luck.